Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to another installment of Scott's Selections here for Friday, June 28th. There is nothing really to recap yesterday as we did not have a play of the day and the card was pretty limited. So with that being said, we're actually just going to dive straight into the play of the day. And for that, we're going to be looking at the late matchup here on the West Coast between the Arizona Diamondbacks and the San Francisco Giants. And in this game, we are actually going to be siding with the road team here, and we will be taking the Diamondbacks on the money line, which is available at minus 111. In this matchup, you have Merrill Kelly versus Sean Anderson. Merrill Kelly, pretty solid so far this season, 7-7 with a 3.93 ERA. Not bad for the 30-year-old. However, if you look at his recent performances, pretty solid actually. Ended up going 6 innings, gave up 2 earned runs in his last start. And his last road start as well, he ended up going 7 2/3 and gave up 3 hits. The reason why I mentioned that last start, the 6 innings, 2 earned runs, because that was also against the Giants. So he literally just pitched against them. He pitched well. If you look at his numbers against the Giants this season in his splits, he has actually pitched really well in his 2 starts against the Giants overall, as he is currently 1-0 with a 1.59 ERA, 11.1 innings pitched, and he's only given up 2 earned runs. So he's definitely pitched well against the Giants. I think that'll continue moving forward, and I like the way the Diamondbacks have been playing. They've won 4 of their last 5. I think they will keep it rolling in this one. Meanwhile, you have Sean Anderson for the Giants. Not bad for his first season, 2-2 with a 3.94 ERA. However, he has not been that solid against the Diamondbacks in his first 2 starts against them. As his numbers, he's currently 0-1 with a 4.91 ERA against Arizona, with 11 innings pitched and 8 runs, 6 of them earned. Plus, the Diamondbacks have a batting average against him of .318. So I simply think the Diamondbacks should be able to get the job done in this one. They've definitely been the better team. Fun fact, the Diamondbacks are 4-0 against the Giants this season in the Giants' home stadium. So home field advantage doesn't really mean anything when the Diamondbacks come to town. And I think that at minus 111, there's way too much value here. I think that the Diamondbacks should realistically be somewhere around minus 120, minus 125. So I think at minus 111, I think that's a gift. And for that reason, we will be giving out the Diamondbacks money line at minus 111 as the play of the day. Now to quickly dive into the rest of the betting card for some leans. First game, you have the Indians versus the Orioles. I would lean to the under 9, and I would also lean to the Indians. I'm a little bit concerned about Clevenger because of the fact that he's only started 1 game in the last 4 months, and overall he didn't look that great in his first start. Meanwhile, Means has actually been pretty solid this season, but I don't trust the Orioles bullpen. If Means goes 6 innings, this thing could explode. I think if you wanted to take a potential under, you should look to the first 5, because the Indians bullpen's not great and the Orioles bullpen's not great, and both starting pitchers, when they're on, are very solid. So for me, I will be leaning to the under in that one. Yep, thanks, CR. Thanks for joining us. Yep, like Diamondbacks too. Moving on, you have the Royals versus the Blue Jays with Duffy versus Reed Foley. If you've never heard of Reed Foley, he's not that good. So I'll put that delicately. I'm actually shocked he's back in the major leagues right now. His stats are atrocious. They have been his entire career. But he's back because Toronto is short on pitching, and they need to bring him in, simply just to eat up innings. In terms of this start, though, he's going up against Daniel Duffy. I don't really like either starting pitcher here. Reed Foley this season, 0-1 with a 6.75 ERA. Duffy's 3-3 with a 4.48 ERA. However, I am going to lean to the Royals here. I know the Blue Jays did play better over their last series against the Yankees, but they did get swept in the end. The Royals, I know that they struggled a bit as a whole against the Indians, but they did have a come-from-behind win that looked impressive. This team has a lot of heart, and I give them props for it. And for me, I'll lean to the over here because I simply just don't like both pitchers. And Toronto's offense did wake up against the Yankees and did perform pretty well. And I really don't like Reed Foley. So I understand why this total is at 10, and I will lean. It's actually at 9.5 now in a decent amount of spots. Lean to the over 9.5 here because I think we should see a decent amount of runs. Moving on to the next game, you have the Cubs versus the Reds. I don't really know what the story is with this line. This looks like an ultimate trap line for me because the Cubs are currently a minus 123 favorite against the Reds. And at first glance, you go, well, Hamels against Gray, and the Cubs are definitely the better team, so I'd have to lean to the Cubs. However, the Cubs, if you look at their numbers, are actually awful on the road. They are 15-21 on the road, and the Reds are 19-17 at home. However, I really dislike Sonny Gray. So it really doesn't make much sense here in terms of lines. I wouldn't take the Cubs here. I think this line looks like a trap and a half. For me, I'll lean to the over just because I think that Hamels might struggle a little bit against this Reds lineup and Sonny Gray's a little bit inconsistent. But overall, that line looks like a major trap. And if you look at Hamels' numbers against the Reds, they're pretty solid overall, but the Reds are a better home team than road team. I don't really know where to lean here. I'd lean to the over. Truth be told, I think I would pass personally because I really just don't understand this line whatsoever. I know money's coming on the Cubs, but the fact that this is still roughly around minus 120, realistically, if you hear in your head that Hamels is pitching against Gray and the Reds have lost like their last 4 straight, you'd probably assume Hamels is roughly a minus 135, minus 140. At minus 123, that looks a little bit too low to me. That looks a little bit sketchy. And for me, I'm simply just going to lay off that game because I really don't. That seems like a trap game where the entire public will be shoving money on the Cubs, and then it turns out the Reds win, and then most of the people just lose money. So I'm personally going to skip that game. Moving on, you have the Phillies versus the Marlins. I will lean to the Phillies minus 1.5 here. Marlins just got swept against the Nationals. Phillies just swept the Mets. A lot of come from behind wins there. Velasquez is inconsistent, but overall he's a decent pitcher with decent stuff. And Hernandez, still a youngster. He's pitched pretty well so far, but the Marlins simply can't hit. Their bullpen stinks. And I like the way the Phillies have performed over the last couple of days. Lean to the Phillies in that one. And I'll small lean to the over 8. Moving on, you have the Rangers versus the Rays. I have to lean to the Rays here. Money's poured in on the Rangers, actually. Tampa opened up at minus 150 down to roughly minus 125. Lynn's been okay in his last couple starts. Did not pitch that well against the White Sox. But Chirinos has been very solid, and Tampa's been very solid at Tropicana. So for me, I'll lean to the Rays on the money line there. Moving on, you have the Tigers versus the Nationals with Norris versus Sanchez. Lean to the over 10.5 here, and lean to the Nationals minus 1.5. The Tigers have had a week to forget for the most part as they've lost 7 straight. Terrible team. Nationals, on the other hand, just swept the Marlins, but you still have Anibal Sanchez and Daniel Norris on the mound, both pitchers that struggled. Total's been bet up from 9.5 to 10.5, and both bullpens are also terrible. I have to lean to the over, and I think the Nationals should score at least 6 or 7 runs in this game. Lean to the over, and the Nationals minus 1.5. Moving on, you have the Braves versus the Mets with Soroka versus DeGrom. Mets have been bet up from minus 120 to minus 138. Tell you the truth, there's no way I can bet the Mets ever on a full game, especially after this bullpen. The Mets are actually the only team in baseball this season who has more blown saves than saves. Something to keep in mind that's actually absurd to me. The Mets have blown more leads than they've actually been able to save games. That's crazy. So for me, even if DeGrom goes 8 innings, do you really trust the Mets bullpen in the 9th? No. I don't trust the Mets bullpen at all. In terms of this game, I'd have to lean to the first 5 on the Mets because Soroka, he only pitched 2 innings in his last start because of a precaution where he ended up he got hit by a pitch, and I don't know if he's still at 100%. He probably should be. But at the same point, DeGrom literally just pitched against the Braves and shut them down for 8 innings of 10-plus strikeout ball. For me, I think if you're going to take the Mets, you have to take the first 5. And I think if you want the full game, you have to take the Braves because I really just don't like this Mets bullpen whatsoever. But I think DeGrom will pitch really well again. And for that reason, I will lean to the Mets minus 0.5 in the first 5 innings here. Plus, the Mets offense has actually played pretty well lately. It's just solely been the bullpen that's been terrible. And I think that if you can simply bet on the Mets without getting the bullpen involved, I think they're actually a valuable team. So I'm going to lean to the Mets first 5 minus 0.5 there. Moving on, you have the Pirates versus the Brewers with Archer versus Chacin. I have to lean to the over 11.5. Archer has continued to disappoint in his career in Pittsburgh, and Chacina was decent in his last start, but at the he really wasn't. He went 4 2/3. He had 5 earned runs. I meant 2 starts ago he was pretty decent since coming back off the DL. But at the same point, I just don't like both pitchers here. They faced each other in Pittsburgh a couple of months ago. That had a lot of runs. And for me, I think 10.5. I think this total's high for a reason. Lean to the over. Moving on, you have the Twins versus the White Sox with Berrios versus Detweiler. In terms of this game, I have to lean to the Twins minus 1.5. Berrios is simply just an ace. He's a fantastic pitcher. Detweiler was a last-minute fill-in to take this spot, and I think he will struggle in this one. I think the Twins will get back on the right track. And as a road team, you're guaranteed 9 at-bats, so I'm going to lean to the Twins there. and I will take them on the -1.5. Moving on, you have the Mariners versus the Astros with Caracidi versus Miley. I will lean to the over 9.5 here. Simply put, I know that the Astros should win, but a -230, I don't see any value on that. Caracidi is a relative unknown. Miley's pitched well this season, but the Mariners have been known for their awful bullpen. They've been known for their solid offense, and the Astros are finally starting to get back to full strength with Altuve back in the lineup, and I will lean to the over 9.5 there. Moving on, you have the Dodgers versus the Rockies with Ryu versus Sanzatella. Lean to the Dodgers -1.5. This Rockies bullpen is just terrible. And I know that yesterday they didn't have the lead by any means, but you have 4 runs in the 9th inning to lose the game 12-8. I simply just don't trust this bullpen at all. Ryu's been solid. He's been struggling a little bit more lately, but the Dodgers lineup scored 12 runs yesterday. I think they'll do well again today. Lean to the Dodgers in that one. Moving on, you have the A's versus the Angels with Ramirez versus Fiers. They're roughly -143 for the Angels. I have to lean to Ramirez here. I think that the A's have been struggling lately. The Angels have actually looked really good over the last week, and Ramirez has solid numbers. For me, I'll lean to the Angels on that one. Moving on, you have the Cardinals versus the Padres. I'll actually lean to the under 9 here. I know why this total has been bet up. It's because the Padres have been playing well offensively over the last week or so. The wind's blowing in. Waka's got insane numbers against the Padres here, and Lauer's not that bad. So for me, I'll lean to the under 9. And the last game I already mentioned with the Diamondbacks and the Giants. But before we conclude today's video, quick reminder of our sponsor. You have PointsBet, only sportsbook in New Jersey. Great deal for you, up to 2 risk-free bets up to $1,000. So if you bet twice $1,000, you're literally gambling with house money, and you'll simply get your money back if you lose. And if you win, you'll get all the profit. The question: do I think the Dodgers game will go over? It's tough with Ryu on the mound, and Sanzatella has been pretty solid lately, but in terms of this game, I have to lean to the over 12.5. I know that it started out 11.5, was bet up to 12.5. These two lineups played really well yesterday. Ryu could dominate, but I still think the Dodgers will score at least 7 or 8 runs. I will lean to the over in that Dodgers game to answer your question on Wayne. And for the Dodgers team total, I'm going to look at, if you look at Sanzatella's actual numbers here, he's 6-5 with a 4.91 ERA. His last start, 6 1/3, gave up 2 earned runs. However, if you look at his numbers against the Dodgers, actually not that bad at 286, but the on-base percentage is at 352. His home numbers, though, are terrible. He's 2-3 with a 6.21 ERA. I have to lean to the over on the team total for the Dodgers there. I think the Dodgers should score at least 8 runs. I think that this will be a high-scoring game again. The Rockies recently in Coors Field, every game has flown over, and their bullpen is one of the worst in the last month. Or the last couple of weeks. The Dodgers bullpen is significantly better than the Rockies bullpen, but the Rockies bullpen is atrocious. So I will lean to the over and the Dodgers team total in that one. And just a quick reminder of the play of the day. It will be on the Arizona Diamondbacks money line against the San Francisco Giants at -111 at Bookmaker. But with that being said, that's going to do it for this installment of Scott's Selections here for Friday, June 28th. And good luck to all of you and your respective plays today. Bye, everyone.